Destiny 2 Lightfall is upon us, and whether you're a Titan Hunter or Warlock, character stats remain one of the most complicated and nuanced systems in the game. So in this video, we're going to break down what every stat does, and by the end, you're going to know exactly what to look for to set your PvE builds up right. Mobility is one of the most deceiving stats in the game, because on a surface level, you'd probably expect it to make you run faster. Well, my friend, this is Destiny, and sometimes the in-game systems are more nebulous than the narrative setting itself. So what mobility actually does is marginally increase your walking speed and your base jump height. This can be a game changer for PvP, because high mobility can take your strafe game to another level, but in PvE, it's basically a hot load of garbage. For hunters, this is the stat that makes your dodge cooldown faster, so for my homies with the cape, having a little extra mobility on your gear is actually a good thing. More class abilities means more melees if you're running Gambler's Dodge, or more reloads on a shorter cooldown if you like Marksman Dodge instead. You can also snag some extra mobility from exotics like the Dragon Shadow, or a sexy little plus 20 from equipping a lightweight frame weapon. But for whatever reason, even though that bonus is active, it doesn't actually change what shows up on your character's stat split. If you do roll around on the floor for funsies, around 50 mobility total is more than enough to get you through any PvE activity. And if you're not a hunter, this stat is pretty much useless to you, so you can safely ignore it and go about your day. Resilience is, well, goddammit, I hate resilience. About a year ago when I made this same video, this was pretty much the worst PvE stat in the game, and only really found use in niche scenarios in the Crucible. Fast forward to Lightfall, and now the exact opposite is true. Resil's had one hell of a glow up over the last 12 months, and even though it's not quite as strong as it was in the final seasons of Witch Queen, it's still an absolute monster. At 100 resilience, you're looking at a 30% damage reduction in all PvE content, and no matter what class you are or what build you're rocking, pushing this as close to max as you can get it is basically priority number one. Thankfully, you can use the fragments from your subclass to help bridge the gap where you need it, and a lot of times, even if the fragment isn't that good, having that plus 10 resil actually makes it worth running. If there's one piece of advice I want you to take from this video, it's this. Until your resilience is at least 80, f every other stat in the game, with one exception. Recovery is what determines how fast your health and shields start regenerating, and since the dawn of time, or the start of Destiny 1, it's sat firmly at the top of the meta. Nothing has changed here in Lightfall, and the difference between a low and high recovery stat is still absolutely game-changing. It takes an eternity to start health regeneration when you don't have enough recuv, and in a first-person shooter, nothing feels less heroic than hiding behind a rock, hoping no one sees or shoots you. If you want to spend any reasonable amount of time engaging the enemy, you're going to need a healthy dose of this, and when you combine that with a high resilience, now you're becoming the PvE powerhouse you were meant to be. I'm serious, these two stats together are like the secret sauce for the endgame of Destiny. They're like spaghetti and meatballs, or Kanye and bad decisions. It's a match made in heaven, baby. And no matter what class you are or what build you're running, this is the combo you want to focus on so you can blast your way to victory. Before we go any further, we need to take a second to talk about some ghost mods that can make your build crafting experience a whole lot easier. When you open up your ghost, in the third slot over, you're going to see some mods that look like stats, as well as a bunch of other garbage that nobody cares about. The important, stat-related ones guarantee that any armor you get to drop has at least 10 points in whatever stat you chose. That probably doesn't sound like much, but without one of these equipped, you're basically pissing in the wind, hoping against all odds that you get a drop worth keeping. Plus, ghost mods don't affect the rest of your build, or your power level, or anything like that, so if you haven't yet, make sure you slot one to get your hands on some pieces that might actually be useful to you. Discipline is what makes your grenade ability cooldown faster, and how important that is depends solely on how much of a shit you give about grenades. Do you want to say screw your guns and throw bombs like a madman? Well, then you probably want a little bit of discipline. But more often than not, you really don't need to push this higher than the 50 to 70 range because of just how many ways there are in the game to get grenades back. For example, grabbing a weapon with the perk Demolitionist gives you a flat 10% of the charge whenever you kill something with the gun. That goes a long way in PvE, and you can also slot mods like Impact Induction in your gloves to get grenade energy from melee hits, or Bomber on your class item to give you a boost to your grenade charge for using your class ability. There are also a ton of exotics in the game that give grenades back in different ways, and again, because of all that, you probably don't need to focus on getting your discipline to 100 to have the ability up whenever you need it. When you start stacking things that give grenades back faster, it becomes redundant real quick, so mess around in that 50 to 70 range and figure out where the sweet spot is for whatever builds you've got set up. Intellect is the stat that makes your supercharge up faster, which sounds simple on paper, but this one's actually pretty complex. The cooldown you see when you hover over it on your character screen is the maximum amount of time it can take to get to 100%, assuming you never fire your weapons or hit anything in that very, very long time period. Because of how dominant they were in PvP, a while back, Bungie made some sweeping changes to supers, increasing cooldowns across the board, and adding a new mechanic that makes the bar charge faster when you're engaging the enemy. And while the concept of, I'm shooting things so the bar charges faster, is pretty easy to understand, this change made the Intellect stat far less important than it used to be. You can lower the cooldown even further by using exotics that buff super regen, or grabbing yourself a weapon with the perk Thresh, but all of that pales in comparison to the dominance of this little white ball. If you didn't know, this is an orb of power, which you can make by slotting a siphon mod in your helmet, and in PvE, these things are all over the goddamn place. Picking them up gives you a chunk of super energy, and between those and literally just firing your weapon, you can pretty safely ignore the Intellect stat altogether. However, I want to quickly explain a new type of stat mod you need to be aware of, and it all starts with our old pal Font of Wisdom. You see, not that long ago, this was a mod that basically capped out your intellect when you picked up an elemental well that matched your subclass. When Lightfall came out, the elemental well system got entirely axed from the game, but Font of Wisdom stuck around, and somehow, as if it were the Eevee of mods, now there's like 6 different variations. Across each piece of your armor is a different font mod, and these raise the corresponding stat by 30 when you pick up an orb of power. Boots get access to the mobility one, chest armor gets the resilience one, you get the idea. And those would be all well and good, except for one thing. They're competing for space against some of the most crucial mods for any build. I'm talking about top tier picks like surge mods that give extra damage to your weapons, or resist mods that keep you from getting your shit kicked in. Because those slots are prime real estate, there's pretty much zero chance you'll ever run one of these, but Font of Wisdom could be the exception. I mean, theoretically, you could sacrifice the extra heavy ammo for you and your squad and pick this up for that easy plus 30 to intellect, but I'm telling you, it's not really necessary, unless you're using an exotic like the Star Eater Scales, which would specifically be for boss damage scenarios. By and large, you can take whatever amount of intellect your gear already has and be totally cool. Strength is what governs your melee cooldown, and it might be my favorite stat in the entire game. Right now you're probably thinking, why strength? And the answer to that is simple. Melees across the board are all pretty terrible, which means strength is bad by proxy. That's it. Thanks for watching. Nah, I'm kidding. Can you imagine if I really ended the video like that? But I stand by what I said. For most subclasses in the game, melees are pretty bad. There are definitely some glaring exceptions to that rule. Yeah, Solar Titans, I'm looking at you, and your game-breaking bonk of doom. But even in that one specific scenario, you're still not out here pushing strength to the cap. Somehow, and now that I'm realizing this, I guess ironically, a lot of the best melees in the game have ways to get their charge back instantly. Blade Barrage Hunters can land a crit with their weighted throwing knife, Sunbreaker Titans can just run right over top of the hammer and ignore the cooldown completely, and Strand Titans and Warlocks, while they may not be the sexiest abilities in the game, have 3 melee charges each. 3 of them. If you're running a build that's focused hard on throwing hands, you can get a ton of mileage out of the mod's momentum transfer in your gloves and outreach in your class item, both of which give nice hefty chunks of bonus melee energy. And if somehow that ain't enough, find yourself a weapon with the perk Pugilist and fill the charge up by getting kills with your gun. But don't waste your precious energy investing into strength. I want to take this moment to reiterate that resilience and recovery are the best stats in the game for PvE, and everything else is just icing on the cake. If you enjoyed this content, press the like button and sub for more. I'm Moonchild of Dude No Way. Thanks for watching.